Personal stories. Um, I heard the speaker earlier say that service to mankind is service to God, and that was going to be a recurring theme in what I was going to say this evening. And also, um, when I heard the previous speaker say that her home resembled a train station, then I suppose I grew up in maybe 4 train stations, all in one. Um, my parents were both from families that were traditional leaders, and so that was the environment in which I grew up in. Uh, I was, because my parents separated when I was quite young, so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, who were at that time traditional leaders of their own communities. They fitted into the structure there from where they came from. On my father's side in Moala in Lau, in Naroi, and on my mother's side in Noikoro in Navosa. And just to say a few words about what that's like, speaking of train stations, it's a meeting point. And as children, we used to joke because people would come to the house from early in the morning. Uh, for me, it was very early, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, the tama starts. That's how, um, instead of knocking at someone's door or at the chief's door, the tama is, um, is what occurs. So we hear that from the morning, people would come home until at night. And at night, it's, in Noikoro, where I grew up on my mother's side, it was bongi. They'd come at night, bongi. Sometimes we'd be sitting around the kitchen table, which was separate from the main house, but just a little corridor there. 10:30 p.m., you hear someone bonging. We'd look at each other. Who wants this job? But as you know, in our societies, those things are hereditary and follows the male line, except, of course, if the males, senior males, decide that they want to appoint a woman. And she meets all of the requirements, which was the case for my mother. Uh, so that was the kind of a background that I grew up with. So to serve others, the legal term for in law, it's called your neighbor. Your neighbor is someone who your actions will affect. Anyone that your actions affect, that's your neighbor. So to serve your neighbor and to serve others around you, it was just, yeah. And in those train stations, that was the job. That's just what you did. People would come home and bring their issues home, whatever issue it is, whether it's school fees or medical fees or raising money for some communal hall or some other communal activity, it was all brought home. Land disputes, it that was where it was resolved, and that's why people would come to the house from the morning till the evening. And in those homes, in those train stations, there's no such thing as a closed door. The door was open 24/7. And I think my mother explained it to me once very clearly. She pulled me aside because she may have thought that my brother and I were being spoiled, being raised by her parents. Because all grandparents dote on their grandchildren. They're not as strict as they were with their children. So one day she pulled me aside and said, listen, don't think for 1 minute because you get all these things given to you. You're made to feel special when you go to the village or you're given good things. Don't think you're special. You are, and my mother was a very blunt person. She said, you are nothing special. You are not entitled to anything. There are no princesses in my house. Just know that all of these people that do these good things for you, you have to excel in your career, get a job, get a career, excel to the highest levels that you can. Because why? You're going to earn millions of dollars? No, you're going to serve. You're going to serve them. Um, so basically, that's the background. And I see the note. And I think many Fijians the Fijians who practice the Christian faith, they will know this. Christianity is in our home from the day we literally were born, baptized when we are taken to church. And then you go to church at least twice every Sunday. And there they do the indoctrination. And again, like previous speaker said, that's very much part of the Christian Bible. Service to mankind is service to God. Those have been the influencing factors in my life and in my drive. And I'd say life was going along rather smoothly. Uh, I said, "Oh yeah, okay, I get that. We get to serve. I'm learning. You know, you start 6, 7 years old, you start hearing. 8 years old, oh yeah, I know what that's about. I can do that. I can have my door open 24/7. Not that any one of us expected to have a title, a traditional title, but uh, people will come to ask, and we thought, yeah, can handle that. That's no problem. But things turned rather took a different route in 1987. It started in 1985. In 1984, before 85, uh, I think the year before then, my mother had then remarried, and she married this very kind, very gentle, very humble, and a great father figure. Uh, he was a doctor by profession, uh, Dr. Bavandra. So, excuse me, 1984, we were part of the family. In fact, my parents, I think, separated when I was 5, but it didn't feel like that because we were very much in both their homes, school holidays in both Moala and Noikoro that we know well. Um, and as a child, when you're told, oh, you know, this is your stepfather, you just think that's just a normal, okay, it's part of growing up. I've got my grandparents on both sides. I've got my mother and my father, now Ratu, and now I've got more. Awesome. So I just thought it was all just, yeah. And that's how they made us feel. Um, so in 1984, while we were kids, we were all quite excited because we heard that my stepfather was going to take an appointment in the World Health Organization as one of the doctors there, and my mother was going to go off to Oxford to do her law degree. So the kids being what we are, we're very excited. Oh, we've got a choice next year. We're going to go to either the Philippines or to London. Of course, we're immature. I mean, now we know our mother, knowing my mother, would never take anyone to London when she's going to do a law degree. We were all going to be carted off to the Philippines, which I chose, by the way, because I thought it was an exciting place to be rather than London. But that all came to naught the following year when we heard another that came down the chain. Oh no, there's this new political party, the Fiji Labour Party, that was in 1985, it was set up. As children, we're thinking, okay, this is probably one little sidetrack journey, and then we'll get over that, then we'll go to the Philippines and to London. We all know what happened. 1987 happened, and all of the hardship and all of the things that it's brought to Fiji, which we now, looking back, we can see, we now know, thanks to Dr. Wadan Nasi and all of the great things that he's written to remind us. Fiji has lost about $20 billion from the coup culture, which started in 1987. I keep telling people these days, imagine what $20 billion could do for Fiji. And I was very interested to hear from a businesswoman, straight from the horse's mouth, about what a coup does to private investment. And private investment is what this country needs. We need a lot of private investment so that we can have first class hospitals, schools, and wages. Um, I went to Melbourne to visit a niece, my sister, last year in October, and my niece finished school, um, 18. She couldn't join the Navy yet. She was advised the Australian Navy. She wanted to join the Australian Navy. She was advised, sorry, just wait 2 years. It's better that you join at 20. So she walks down to the shop, corner shop from where they live, and the owner says, start tomorrow. She starts on $21 Australian an hour. I was asking her. I meant to ask her because that's what politicians should know. If you want to help your people, you got to know things. So and I was asking her, really, is that what? Yeah, $21. And then second year, $24 Australian an hour. That's about $30 Fijian an hour. Now, in 1986, Fijian dollar and the Fijian economy was better than Australia and New Zealand. Singapore and Malaysia were nothing to Fiji. You just imagine what we have lost. And then in fast forward, 1999, my mother led the Fijian Association Party Deputy Prime Minister to Mr. Chowdhury, who was Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party. And again, there was a coup. And both cabinets, 1987 and 1999, were cabinets filled with very able people, very able people. And even though I didn't support SDL, their cabinet did the good thing in 2006. Mr. Ngarase reached out to the Labour Party, joined my cabinet. And when I heard that at that time, I thought, thank God now I don't have to serve in that sphere. They are all doing the right thing now, talking to each other. And they're going to, what happens? Coup happens in December. I'm trying to give you these personal stories that I've experienced it right there in my family, up close. And I hear the stories and I see the struggles of people. And I just think $30 Fijian an hour, 18-year-old niece, a child. And then while I was still there, her brother goes down the road to Tyrek, says, start tomorrow, $21 an hour Australian. It's just, I just think of our people and I think what we need is democracy and the rule of law. That's the only way that we can get private investment to come here. Fiji has so much to offer. That's why I'm passionate about these things. I hope that I've explained a little bit more of where it is that I come from, where I'm coming from when I get a bit agitated in my political travels. I get frustrated because I feel that this country has such great potential, and I want to encourage. Just listen to Mrs. Pillay and Mrs. Shute. They would have been all very inspirational. Fiji is so great with all these great people. Thank you all so much. God bless you and God bless Fiji.